What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the collaborative mixtape by NBA YoungBoy and Birdman. Basically, this product is called From the Bayou, and it came out in the late fall of 2021. The thing about this particular product is just the fact that this is a product that had been in the making for a good handful of years. It's originally supposed to come out in 2018, but it suffered a series of delays. That's the pitch behind it, but that had kind of happened with the number of Birdman projects throughout the 2010s as far as those pitches kind of happened. Originally, he was going to drop a Like Father Like Son 2 project with Lil Wayne. He was also going to drop like his Bigger Than Life album in 2011 and 2013, some of those type pitches. But it's just kind of concept. I want to say there's supposed to be another Rich Gang album, some pitches like that. So it's just kind of concept about it. But I'm glad that this particular product managed to surface. It is somewhat underwhelming, but I do like the concept of like the amalgamation, what was being attempted here. It's a good showcase of NBA YoungBoy on here. Birdman's really just more of a presenter on this particular product. He might rap on like 2 or 3, probably no more than 4 or 5 songs. Well, really not more than 5 songs, but definitely probably no more than 3 or 4 songs as Birdman actually lay verses down as far as that pitch can go. So it's just more of like Birdman hosting the particular project and this being more of like an NBA YoungBoy type project. Now it's good enough within a sense. It's going to get kind of a subpar and underwhelming score, but I do like the attempt of saying for what it is for like the trendy type sound, just because there's not. The thing about Southern hip hop in like the 2020s is there just weren't a ton of folks that were really circulating around that particular time. I mean, yeah, trap music was kind of popping around that time, but between Young Thug going to prison, Gunna going to prison around that time, I mean, even though this came out in 2021 and both those folks went to prison in 2022, and the concept about it is, you had this the back and forth between who was out and who wasn't, pitches like that. It was just kind of the concept behind it. NBA YoungBoy was apparently in prison throughout 2021, some pitches like that, and he's also in prison currently. So it's just kind of the concept. He wasn't in 2023, he was in 2021, some pitches like that. So it's just kind of he what NBA YoungBoy was in prison in 2024. So it's just kind of the back and forth between what happens with it. Now, for the most part, a lot of recent times I'm kind of less fond of and how some of these aspects can happen just because just mainly moreover because some of this health prone type stuff that's been kind of going on just within the context behind it. It's just kind of more, gym fit, water drinking pitches like that. Just a lot more, just more super health prone type unctuousness that just kind of gets haphazard and annoying as far as those pitches going to happen. But just within the aspect behind it, I look after some of these concepts as far as to how that amalgamates in recent times. Now, I feel like this, considering the sort of content that was out around this time, I remember reviewing Young Thug's 2023 album last year, and I kind of thought that that was kind of haphazard. I mean, I realized that Young Thug was in prison when he put out that project, but it's kind of the same thing here, just within the affluence behind it. Like, I feel like the energy the energy for like the relay of what this project wants to be is stronger than the actual delivery of how it happens. I just look after that particular concept as just kind of somewhat of a disappointment because I would have figured. I do think Birdman probably should have been on at least a song or two more than what he was. I want to say once again that he was only on probably 3, no more than 4 songs out of 13 on here. So I feel like he probably should have been on some more of these type ones just to have been able to show it. It's within the concept. Now I know that Birdman dropped an album with Juvenile in 2019. I'm going to get to that one as well. I kind of question the concept as to how many songs he's on in that particular one. But I mean, I do feel like NBA YoungBoy delivers on here. He definitely has some mess hall type music and some dap type tunes. He reminds me a lot of Young Thug. He reminds me a lot of Lil Durk. He reminds me a lot of like folks like that, Lil Wayne, and like his more No Ceilings 2 type era. Anything from like the 2015 to late 2010s mixtape Lil Wayne. I feel like that's the concept of some of this, how that delivery and just the overall cadence of what NBA YoungBoy kind of has here. I want to say there's probably some other folks. I don't know as many full blown to like the more new era trap rappers, but I would have to say probably folks like Moneybagg Yo or Gunna, some of those type folks, just those particular type pitches. But I can definitely confirm he reminds me a lot of Young Thug and Rich Homie Quan and a lot of Young Thug and Lil Durk and possibly Rich Homie Quan, some of those type folks. It's a good enough pitch. I feel like the learning curve behind it is relatively there. This is definitely like this being circa late 2021, early 22. This is definitely like most recent. This is, I feel like in some senses, this might be a little bit yesteryear, mildly. I mean, late 2021 is really not that far ago, but it's just within the concept. It's just kind of somewhat yesteryear in terms of the pitch behind what's been going on. Now, NBA YoungBoy, having been in prison since early 2024, is kind of the concept that I feel like his appetite's kind of getting there. But the longer he's in prisons, the more of the concept that folks are going to forget about him. So it's just kind of then the relative pitch. But I look after it. Like I said, I feel like this doesn't compare to earlier Birdman projects and more mid 2010s trap as far as that pitch kind of goes, but at least has the attempt at trying to get it. At least this is not within the health prone aspect of the usual douchiness that kind of goes along with some of those type things. I'd have to say it's just a good aspect. NBA YoungBoy gets fucked up on here. He has the mess hall type tracks, but the main complaint to me about this particular project is just the fact of saying that some of these songs that are elsewise on here just do not add up. I feel like the turn up songs, there's some ones on here like Alligator Walk, there's some ones on here like 100 Browns and Stuck With Me, some of those type ones that do have like some good sense of just like some good turn up. There's a couple songs with knock on here. Like I feel like Chopper Boy has some good malaise. Young Stun is a pretty nice one for like some vehicle thump. Some of these ones that have a little bit more turn up, but there's a lot of in between type moments that are just more trap R&B, or at least like the malaise and trying to do like Future and Young Thug type sound, or just more songwriting just within the standard, just kind of marinating within like standard trap type fare, and it just doesn't have the appeal as to what's kind of going on. I feel like this is the sort of stuff that folks complain about with the auto tune, like being over drenched in auto tune. It's not so much the auto tune that's the problem, it's just the concept that it just, I feel like these not necessarily, they're just kind of in between type moments. When you look after some of these type feels that kind of go along with that, I mean, NBA YoungBoy strikes me as like a pretty good trendy type dude for like recent cats, for more, you know, just folks that are more with the shit circa like the 2020s forward. I'd have to say some good concepts kind of get some of this just within, just some good concepts within the turn up about some of these moments, and just some good trendiness to kind of have with it. But I just look after just being able to say that when the energy is kind of switched up and you have kind of more just hangout type fare, just not necessarily chicas type fare, ladies kickback type fare, but just more within the concept of this kind of figuring out. I mean, I just feel like the character of some of these type moments when it's not in turn up or vehicle centric type mode, and really there's not that many vehicle centric songs on here. It's just kind of the concept that you just look after it. Some of these moments just feel awkward, and just kind of the production fare that's subpar on some of these. They just kind of feel beleaguered and bewildered, and it just doesn't help the acclaim of pushing this project forward. There's several of these that kind of have that flat kind of tone and just overall delivery and execution, like songs like Safe Then Sorry, Heart and Soul, Achievements, Blackball, some of these type ones, Open Arms in certain senses. Just some of these particular, pretty much about half the project has like this flatter delivery of some of these type ones that just don't really have much like appeal. This, and I'll just go ahead and just boister this because there's not really singles off this project. There were some music videos. I'm just not going to recognize those as much full blown. I think that this is more of like a commercial mixtape, but it had the music videos towards it, but in terms of like the single appeal, this is not really sure as full blown what songs particularly charted. But I just look after the complaints about some of these, just deals with the territory that like a lot of these particular songs just fall flat and don't have the delivery as far as just being able to get back on track with something that just kind of has like more just vivacious kind of appeal as far as that would particularly kind of happens. It's kind of the concept as to how those kind of happens. Not to say, I mean, I look after it like, I feel like NBA YoungBoy in 2021, 2022 just had the appeal just because he was as star-studded as he was around that particular time. He was kind of like Lil Wayne in 2005, 2006, Carter 2 and Like Father, Like Son days as far as those pitches kind of happened. He kind of had the Midas touch around this particular time. But it's just these songs that showcase him are just not apt at really delivering upon something that really has that particular bite, I would have to say. And it just kind of feels like just revving wheels and just not really showcasing much with much panache to really get towards it. And that just kind of happens to be a thing. But there are some good songs on here. I feel like some of these type moments, I feel like NBA YoungBoy definitely should have had more songs like Young Stunna. Probably should have had another song or two like Alligator Walk, and probably another good beat as nice as the kind of glazed, kind of little baby-esque malaise of Chopper Boy, some of those type ones I'd have to say. But there's just some ones on here. So yeah, basically out of 13 songs on here, I wound up recommending 6. That's the concept, just a little bit less than half, I'd have to say, the concept behind it. But I'll go ahead and recommend these 6 songs. They would be Chopper Boy, Young Stunna, How You Know, Alligator Walk, 100 Browns, and Stuck With Me. So basically, a pretty immediate one would be Chopper Boy. This is a song that Birdman actually raps on a bit. It's a good concept for that. It's like a moody, kind of dark and sobering gem, I would have to feel like. This reminds me definitely of like Lil Baby's Hauntingness. I would feel like some of that type stuff on his mixtape type fare. There's some good glaze about that and overall moroseness. And it's like a neighborhood trap bump of a song, I'd have to say in particular. And this song slaps pretty good. The thing about this particular mixtape is just the fact that it has some house party gems on here. I feel like the songs I recommend, songs like Chopper Boy, How You Know, Alligator Walk, 100 Rounds, and like Stuck With Me are all some nice ones for that relative type of appeal. Just like a standard kind of get together, just dap getting pitches like that. Some of that type there as far as that particular kind of happens. Standard PlayStation type music, basketball games on, some of that type there, some of those type pitches. Watching Jackass, some of those particular type tones, just kickback, pizzas out, and those sorts of things. Just being able to say standard. Standard basic chicas just being out and about as far as that particular pitch kind of goes. Just standard house party type fare, just a real glaze sense for that. Good concept, but Young Stun is a pretty nice one. Now this one probably has one of the best beats on here as well. It's like a real Young Stun. It definitely has some vehicle thump. It's like a brooding and kind of ghastly vehicle noise. I would definitely feel like this song has hella knock and gets you stoked pretty quickly. I would definitely feel like this is just like out and about kind of thump to get. Not a ton of songs like this on here, I'd have to say. Just kind of the concept. This is one of those type ones that future Migos would kind of do just within that pitch, the standard vehicle knock, just being able to say good concept, kind of stunt a little bit and just have some good cruise out, just appreciate the times, just kind of some flex type music just within standard fare, just good concept for that cruise about, just more relative local noise, but it is a little bit of club turn up. I'm not sure if NBA YoungBoy, I think NBA YoungBoy was at least amongst the age of being able to go to nightclubs and bars, strip clubs, some of those type pitches, just good enough concept within that fare, but just really has the appeal behind it. Some standard stunt type music. There's actually not a ton of club songs on this particular album, which is another thing about it. Just being able to say, I just look after the concept of being able to say, I feel like Young Stun is probably like the flashiest song on this particular album, just either with songs I recommend or just as a whole. I'd say the only other song that comes relatively close to that would probably be Alligator Walk or 100 Rounds, I'd have to say. Most of this is just more residential bound, just local S type fare. But How You Know is a nice one. It's like a house party kind of dap music. I would definitely feel like it's like a pass around some joints. Definite good tune for that. Definitely like some Bella music, some Chica, some standard fare like that. It's like an in between kind of IG times. I would feel like Instagram stories, some of that type fare. And this is just some. This song is just some hangout knock to kind of get here. So I do appreciate this particular concept of this particular one. This one definitely reminds me of like Lil Durk, Young Thug, on like their more mixtape type fare as far as that particular kind of happens. Just standard, just initial kind of kickoff type mess, just the dapper type tone, and just standard fraternized type entry type stuff, just within that aspect. Backyard, front yard type music, just be able to get the standard meetup and just pretty much just local commotion. I mean, this is more of a song. I mean, I recognize that this is more of a song for the ladies, the kind of concept. But I look after it. This also is some house party noise, just to be able to have this more, this more backdrop energy as opposed to this more one-on-one, just kind of personal type fare as far as that particular one goes. I'd say it was just house party mess. Alligator Walk is a pretty nice one. It's like definitely some mess hall type music and entry kind of dap noise. I would definitely have to say it's like a good kickoff. This is a good song to kick off some smoke. This song is a good song to kick off some smokage. I would definitely feel like it's like a 2020s kind of trendy shit starter. I would feel like good concept for that, and this is a pretty dope song. So I look after it, but what I mean by shit starter is just the concept. This is one that kind of makes the noise happen pretty quickly. Just an initial type one for like 2020s. If you're not wanting something retro, throwback from like 2013, 2006, 1998, some of those type fares, just looking for something relatively recent. This is a good one that kind of gets things going within a relative type pitch, just within the concept of doing it within a quickness. I'd say it's a good, nice one. There are some dap ones. There's some real good kind of get crunk a little bit, have some good times. How You Know, Alligator Walk, Stuck With Me, some of these type of ones. I feel like 100 Rounds is another type one that kind of does that. House party type fare, but these moments are kind of more sprinkled in, more so than full blown kind of amalgamated further. And I feel like there's not many other strengths to this project apart from like the house party type commotion, just within a relatively modest kind of sense. I mean, the energy never really gets turned up to 10 on this particular product, apart from maybe the song Stuck With Me. And Stuck With Me, I wouldn't say is like a 10 in terms of energy either. It's just kind of just more modest type fare. It's just kind of here and there, just kind of basic dap, just kind of concept of just kickback, smoke a little bit, feel good, but just the concept behind it is just relatively more modest. So that's kind of, it has to do with the lukewarm kind of score I would give this, but 100 Rounds is a pretty nice one. I would have to say it's like a bopping kind of slummish DJ Mustard. 100 Rounds is a pretty nice one as well. It's like a bopping kind of slummish DJ Mustard-esque kind of neighborhood ratchet evening. Malaise, I would feel like. There's some good cons to kind of get that in particular. There's definitely like some red eyes kind of get crunk type tone to kind of get. Yeah, this is definitely like some good dredgy type flair, just a real orange skies, this typical type fare, just really getting stones and pitches like that. Like I said, red eyes, just pitches like that. Really appreciating the size, just some house party type dap to kind of get within that aspect. Just get crunk a bit, have some Hennessy in your system, some of that type there, just some good concept, just to really kick back with some of that malaise and just overall work shift relief, some of those type pitches. If you just got done with work, some of that type there, and you're just heading to like a local house shindig, some of that type ness, football season, basketball season, some of that type ness, just within late summer, just some good aspects for like some relatively warm weather, just to kick it in the front yard, smoke a little bit, some standard fare, kick back, just crack some jokes, some of that type fare. It's a good concept and have some of that. Really takes it back to like DJ Mustard from like 2014, 2015 days. Really reminds me of like a YG song or something like that, I'd have to say. Nipsey Hussle, one of those type folks. And then Stuck With Me is a nice one as well. This like a flip mode kind of primer for like a crazy night. I would definitely feel like it's a crazy night flash. I would definitely have to say is like a basic kind of late night trap powwow. I would have to say a good concept for like some backyard smokers, just to be able to have. It's a little bit. It's like a rattled song. It's a little bit more just kind of dismantled. This one's a little bit more beleaguered and kind of more preoccupied with things in mind as far as that pitch kind of goes. This would be a definite good song to smoke up to and just kick back a bit. So it's just the concept. Feels like NBA YoungBoy on this particular song is getting ready to ride out or get ready to get even with some folks as far as those pitches kind of happen. And just look after the concept as far as that pitch kind of particularly goes. Is what I had to say amongst that particular tone. You just look after it. I mean, it's some standard noise. It's a little bit kind of, this is kind of an incense song, I'd have to say, as far as that particular kind of goes. It's the aspect behind just maybe having a relatively foul day, just needing to smoke and kind of even out a little bit as far as those pitches kind of have them. I just look after it. It is some basic kind of night energy, and it's just another good neighborhood kickoff just with you and your homies as far as that particular kind of goes. Some good late night type flash as far as that particular kind of happens. Just look after some good stuff. This is probably the most frenetic one on here. This is the most, probably one of the more exhilarating ones, despite the fact that it's more of a rattled and incense kind of song. I still would have to say it's got some relative energy that should be relatively kinetic about it. It's just not quite as in like a punctual type mode. So you have to look after it. But yeah, I feel like songs like Stuck With Me, Alligator Walk have those relative type tones about it, just some mess hall type music just within that fare. So that's kind of the concept about this particular product, just being able to say that there are some bops on here, enough of that. I'm going to have to go ahead and say that me recommending 6 songs out of 13 on here, I'm going to go ahead and give this album or this mixtape like a 4.75 out of 10. I feel like it has qualities about it. It has potential just with the aspect. I like seeing what NBA YoungBoy does. He has a good chemistry with Birdman as far as those pitches kind of happen, but the strengths are just not on full display. There's really not any quality singles on this particular product in terms of like some turn up that this really stands out as far as something that's like the defining kind of song on here. I feel like Alligator Walk is a good song, but it just is kind of like, B minus list in terms of like the energy and overall addictiveness behind it. Youngstun is probably the best song on here in terms of like the overall knock and just overall this quality, floss type sound and just overall the most pizzazz about it, the most flashy. I'd say Choppa Boy probably has one of the best beats, but it just is kind of like it's just very low key and just kind of unsung as to how it kind of does it. It's just kind of the concept. Birdman is really not on full display on this particular project, and really I feel like one of the songs that he was on, which was the song We Ride, which was just a rewrite of the song Pressure's On from his 2005 album, just really didn't deliver. That was just a song that probably I would definitely think that that particular song just does not translate to 2020s type song. I probably would have chosen something like Neck of the Woods or one of those type ones, or a song like Pop Bottles, just a more recent type hit. Just felt like Birdman just didn't really nail the particular song to bring back from like his throwback days from the 2000s. But that just kind of happens to be a thing. So it just kind of deals with the territory behind it. There's too many like in between type songs that just drop the ball with the energy tone, just the overall affability of trying to build some new strengths for NBA YoungBoy. Just didn't really provide the vibe of being able to do that correctly. So I just look at it. But the social score, I'll go ahead and give the social score like a 6.25 out of 10. I feel like the social score gets a 6.25 out of 10 because it is at least affable. The attempts behind trying to have some of this kind of conduct as far as like some good turn up. Like I said, this is a relatively modest kind of localized kind of house party shindig gig as far as that particular goes. Some good jig type music just to be able to get and have some good times. At least a couple good handful of smoke sessions as far as those particular kind of having some basic depth for like some trendy relative recent times for like the early 2020s, I'd have to say. Good enough concept for some of that. Some good house party type fare, a few flirty type numbers for the chicas and bellas as far as that particular kind of goes. A little bit of vehicle knock, a little bit of kind of malaise just within the aspect of just something that's the standard trap just within the sense. I mean, the appreciation trap, the execution trap is relatively good on here. It's just kind of the concept. There's just not enough strengths to really go around it, I had to say. So that's this kind of thing with the social score, modest kind of house party gigs and pitches like that. But I'd say in terms of the future, like NBA YoungBoy is in prison. Last I checked, he dropped an album somewhere in like the first half of 2024 or late 2023, I'd have to say. I know he went to prison probably like in the winter of 2024, so he's supposedly getting sentenced. We'll have to see what happens, get him out of prison, get to some pitches like that, get some more albums out. But Birdman, this is basically his most recent project. So I wanted to get to this Birdman project as well, just because I'm trying to get Birdman's projects wrapped up. So I want to get towards that as far as that pitch kind of goes. Got a few more to get to, but this is a good concept here. Like I feel like this is an appetizer that has some decent treats on it as far as that particular thing goes. Has enough gems on it to warrant at least fucking with it. It's just kind of underwhelming. Not much more than an appetizer, I'd have to say.